I don't care if he is dead, put him on the phone. My father died on Father's Day 2012. He was divorced and living alone, and I'm an only child. So that means that I had to wrap up all of his affairs. This story centers around us trying to get his utilities cancelled. I called in to see what we had to do to get them to cancel. The lady I spoke with on the phone said to send in his certified death certificate. I sent in the certified copy of his death certificate the next day. The next month got another bill. I called again, and a new woman answered. She said that, because I wasn't on the account, that she had to speak with the account holder. I informed her that the account holder was dead, but she wouldn't budge. I had to make an appointment with a supervisor, so she could speak to him herself in person. I showed up at the Board of Public Utilities with another death certificate, and his ashes in the clear bag that they returned his remains in. I plopped them down on the center of her desk, and said when she talked to him to tell him that I loved him for me. The woman went pale, flew out her chair, and called the cops. When they showed up she claimed that I had assaulted her. And yes, my dad's remains were still sitting in the middle of her desk with the death certificate. The cops questioned me as to why I would do that. I told them the story. The supervisor's boss was called in, and they all stepped away from the desk for a private talk. While they were talking, the cops came over to talk to me. They said that I shouldn't take human remains out in public, but there was no laws that were broken. I said that I agreed with them that it was extreme, but she insisted to speak with him in person. By then they were done talking between themselves. The supervisor's boss kissed up to me and got it taken care of. But the story isn't over yet. I had to call back a few days later to get utilities back to the house in my name. When the person on the phone saw the address in my name, I was immediately put on hold. The supervisor's boss that finally helped me got on the phone. She sucked up to me and waived all of the fees that come with setting up utilities. Just as the call was ending, she informed me that she was again so sorry for the employee's lack of compassion. She said that the employee was terminated, and again she is so very sorry. TLDR, ignorant employee asked to speak to dead dad. Had a meeting in person, brought his ashes, got her fired. What do you mean I can't drive my car? I've been a mechanic my entire working life so far, and this is one of my favorite experiences. I had a customer come in complaining about a vibration. I put the vehicle on the lift and checked the front end. I found a nearly broken tie rod and a faulty rack and pinion. So basically the passenger side front wheel was not fully secured to the steering system and would soon break and cause the wheel to be completely disconnected from the steering. I told the customer how much the repair would be and told her it was unsafe to drive. She asked me to put it back together so she could leave. I told her that I could not do that because if it broke after I let her leave, I could be held liable. She started yelling and screaming about calling the cops and suing me, and how her cousin's brother knows a guy who's related to the chief of police and I'll be arrested. She calls the police and they come out. I show the officers the vehicle and they understood the safety concern. They told me to just put the car down and let her leave. I did, and even made her sign a statement declining crucial safety repairs. She left with the most haha, I told you so smug grin on her face. Until she left the property, got pulled over, and her car impounded. They also gave her a ticket for reckless driving. I was so happy seeing her car get towed. Restaurant employee amuses himself, delights me and my kids. Yesterday I decided to take my kids to an international chain restaurant. In this restaurant, the kids' meal comes with ice cream. But you have to serve yourself. That was a problem, because there weren't any bowls beside the ice cream machine. So I thought, I know what to do. I'll simply ask an employee for some bowls. And that's just what I did. So he turns to look at the vast array of bowls behind him. Some sauce-sized, some entree salad-sized, and many in between. And we realize that neither of us knows what size the kid's ice cream is intended to be. So he thought, I know what to do. I'll simply ask a manager. And he says, hey boss, what do we put the kid's ice cream in? Without turning around, the boss says a fucking bowl. What do you think? Yep, but what size of bowl? The boss, with his inimitable charm, tact, and grace, says just fucking give him a bowl. The employee looked back at the bowls, and then I saw him get a big grin over his face. I apologize about that, sir. I think it's probably these ones, he says, as he hands me two of the largest bowls they have in the restaurant, practically giggling with glee. My children were similarly delighted. The manager walked by when we were halfway through and made a noise like a startled opossum, but said no actual words. Definitely going back there. I demand to be put in a seat that is able to recline. A few years ago I was on a flight from LA to Singapore. Takes 16 plus hours. I'm a tall dude, around 6 feet 3 inches, 190 centimeters, so I don't fit very well in economy class seats. On most planes my knees are often very close or right up against the seat in front of me. This makes it impossible for the person in front of me to recline their seat, which usually isn't a problem once the person in front of me sees how cramped I'm in those tiny seats. However, for this particular flight, the man in front of me was not having it. He tried to recline his seat, but couldn't because my legs were there. He turns around and sees what's happening and asks me something along the lines of, "Do you mind letting me put my seat back?" I respond with, "I wish I could, but I physically can't. I'll do my best to give you as much space as I can, but it won't be much." At this point he starts to get angry and just starts pushing as hard as he can back on his seat. Needless to say, this was not particularly pleasant for me. I ask him to please stop, and he says, "I'll stop when I can put my seat back." I decide I'll just wait him out. He'll eventually get tired. After about 10 to 15 minutes of this, he calls a flight attendant over and proceeds to demand a new seat. The flight attendant tells him there are no available seats and he will have to deal with it. He demands to speak to the pilot, so the flight attendant goes up front to talk to the cockpit. Keep in mind that throughout this he is still pressing with all his might against my knees, with only short breaks, to yell at the flight attendant. After a couple of minutes, the co-pilot, he wanted to speak to the pilot and wasn't happy about this, comes back and tries to explain to the man that he can't change seats because there are no other coach seats free. The man continues to demand a seat that is able to recline. "Give me an upgrade. This is unacceptable," making a scene, etc. The co-pilot finally gives in and says while looking at the man, "Sir, would you like to sit up in business class?" The man stands up and mutters something similar to, "Fucking finally," to which the co-pilot responds, "Sir, sit down. I wasn't talking to you." He turns to me and repeats, "How would you like a seat in business class?" I have, to this day, never seen someone as furious as the man as I walked past him to my new business class seat with free drinks. Was told to actually read the policy, so I did. I work for an office and we have an 8-week busy season with mandatory overtime, 12-14 HRS/day. During this time, the company agrees to reimburse us for dinner, up to $13 a meal. We just have to submit a claim with our receipts at the end of the busy season. Food options around my work aren't great, so I usually brought my dinner from home. But sometimes I was too tired to cook after a long day, so out of the 8 weeks, I purchased maybe 10 meals. 3 of those meals I spent $13.50, going $0.50 over the limit. This resulted in a whopping $1.50 overage, which my manager said it was no big deal and that I could include on my expense claim. He signed off on it and everything. A few days after I submitted my report, head office emailed me saying they rejected my expense claim and that I could resubmit after I removed the $1.50 overage. I wrote back saying my manager was fine with the $1.50 overage and even signed off on it, and they responded by telling me that they do not allow overages under any circumstances, that the $1.50 must be removed, or they wouldn't approve any of my meal expenses. They ended their email with the advice that I should actually read the company policy next time. Fine. They were right and I was wrong. So I decided I'd read the policy very thoroughly before redoing my expense claim. Yes, the policy clearly stated a $13 maximum on purchase meals. Oh, and what's this? The policy also allows a $10 per diem for meals you bring from home. I very happily removed the $1.50 overage and added an additional $300 for the 30 meals I brought from home. I should read the company policy more often. Ex-girlfriend wants to cut off our electricity? No problem. I was living with my girlfriend and a roommate, and we split the cost of every bill evenly, even though each bill was in one person's name. Well, That was the idea, but I naively helped my girlfriend pay her part of the bills. That is, paid completely for most of them. The rent was in my name, the electricity in my girlfriend's, etc. Well, I eventually got tired of her crap, arguments, smelly gerbils, not doing chores, and we broke up. It was messy. She took ages to move out, making sure to mooch every penny she could before leaving. When she left, I immediately started a new electricity account in my name. A week later, I got a letter of confirmation in the mail, but I also received the electricity bill for the last 3 months my ex was living with us. I opened it without thinking. We couldn't even pay it if we wanted to because the bill was in her name. I shot her a text. Me, yo, you got the electricity bill in the mail. It's $120, so come pick up $40 from each of us. X, where's the other $40? We agreed I wouldn't pay bills after I move out, as if she did before. Me, you were still living here for the time period of the bill. X, this is bullshit. I'm not going to pay a thing. We had an agreement. Me, well, you can come over to get our part, or you can pay it alone. X, the way I see it, you can either bring the $120 to my place, or have fun in the dark lol. Me, you got me there. At this point I realized that she doesn't know I started my own account with the electricity provider. She thought that by refusing to pay, the provider would cut our lights. Good way to mooch another $40 from us, right? But that's not quite what happened. A few weeks later, I received another letter from a company with her name on it. Probably a late payment warning. I sent her a text to tell her, and she responded, "Lol, why are you so desperate to talk to me? You know what you have to do." Another letter came in for her. This one was probably late fees. I have to guess, because I never opened them. I messaged her and she said, "I thought I told you to never talk to me again." As you wish, ma'am. More letters arrived, but from a new address. I googled the new sender's address and found that they were debt collectors. Scary stuff. It's too bad I couldn't say a word to her. Now about 2 or 3 months later, I received a phone call from my ex, and I'm greeted by what the fuck these people are calling my parents' house. I've got all these late fees bar debt collectors. I told her, if she wants our part of the bill, she knows what to do. Realizing that she had no other choice, she caved and came for the money. My roommate and I didn't give her a cent toward late fees, and I probably looked so fucking smug giving her my money for the last time.